Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Stuart. Welcome back to another episode of The Practice. Big episode 40. I love nice round numbers like that. Feeling like we're getting somewhere. Another 10 episodes will be at 50. That feels like a milestone. So we're just going to keep plugging away at it. And, I want to thank you all for coming. We had a really fun time last week doing sort of a wacky taxidermied creature head. And I had such a good time. I'm going to do another one this week. Definitely a different style of head. Definitely, some different shapes and forms. But I think it's a fun theme to riff on. You could provide a lot of variety with that type of imagery, and it might even be fun to do a whole bunch of these, then maybe mount them all on one wall and do a single rendering with them all together. Just a thought. Before we dig in, a few quick announcements. One is I just finished up about a month-long stint at a small VR startup that will have a product launching soon. They're called Vicarious. Check them out on Twitter at Vicarious VR. They'll have a product launching for Daydream, in the next week or two here, and then there'll be product releasing on Gear VR and then hopefully iOS as well soon thereafter. So big things in that direction. And I'm also super excited to announce that in the next week or so, I'll be releasing this short film that I've been working on for the past 4 or 5 months. It's only about 4 minutes long, so it is a short film, but those animators out there definitely recognize that even though a 4 minute film has many, many thousands of frames in it, and it's been taking a long time, and I've been really trying to sweat some of the details and make it look really solid. So yeah, can't wait to share that with you all. Coming out soon. I'll definitely have more to share on social. So give me a follow at DLGNCE at on Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram and all those fun spots. So all that said, let's dive in. And you know what? It's weird that I'm doing my intro with this. Doing all my intro with an infinitely repeating screen on my face. That's kind of silly. So anyway, sorry about that. Let's dig in. So like I mentioned, more creature heads. I guess I say this every week, but I guess it's worth mentioning this week again. Is get in the chat, say hi, show us what you're working on, shoot us a link. I always love communicating and chatting with you guys. I love seeing what the community's working on, and I love building a further sense of community amongst all of you illustrators and animators and 3D modelers and all that. So get at me. All right, so and as is typical, really we're going to start with blocking out simple shapes. That's what we do in these parts. Like I mentioned, I'm gonna go for a different style of creature than last week. I may borrow the same lighting setup so that things are staying consistent and feel evenly lit, and that way, if they start coming together as a series in the future, they'll feel like they belong together. I guess as a side note, that's one thing I've always really been a big fan of is sort of series of work. If you can show one illustration in a cool style, that's nice. But if you can show like 3 relating pieces in a similar style that work well together and show, consistency and consistency in approach or outlook or style or whatever the case may be, I think it's a more robust sort of description of your skill set or what you're capable of producing. So always love that stuff. Dexter's here. What up, man? Thanks for stopping by. Working on anything cool these days? Definitely want to put the plaque on there like we did last week, but I think I'm going to make a simpler one. Let's see how this works as a starting place. Excuse me. Not bad. And I think I might do is actually borrow the extrusion from last week, because that will be a point of consistency we can work on as well. Practice. Let's grab this wall too while we're at it. Work on these kind of like a series, yeah? Well, we've got a different orientation already. So it's not that it matters so much, but let's rotate this bad boy. Oops. I'm just going to take that same extrusion. Yeah, why not? And just like last week, I think was really fun is, asking the folks out there to help me come up with a name for this creature. Last week, Devin came up with a really sweet suggestion for this somewhat goat-looking fella called Capra corruptus, which I like. So keep the suggestions coming in. I'd love to see what you guys recommend for this kind of creature. Maybe we should add some more features and inject some personality in there. That'll give us a better idea what he should be called, no? All right. He's got a little misplaced when I did that rotation. So let me zero some of this stuff out before we get too far. And not every dimension needs to be zeroed out, of course, but I find that if at least one or two axes, if things are starting in a central point, when you start dropping in new objects, they'll be much faster to line up with everything. So worth keeping that organized. Big time. Cool. Hi, Candy. Thanks for asking. So I will be releasing that video on Vimeo and YouTube, and I'll definitely be tweeting about it. So, so I'm not sure if you follow on Twitter or any of the other socials, or if you subscribe on YouTube, hopefully it'll show up in your feed. Definitely gonna be making a lot of noises about it. So just keep your eye out. I'm sure you'll find it. And now I'm working on a shape for the opening of the mouth. do. You know, in a lot of scenes, I'll worry about poly count to a certain extent, but this is just going to be a singular image, so I'm just gonna get after it. Go as high poly as I want. I'm not really going to worry about it. Because normally these capsules come in a little bit too high polygon for a lot of applications. Oh, by the way, I meant to mention, thanks to everyone for helping us break that 500 subscriber mark. You know, I was squawking about that in the intro to the last live stream, and wouldn't you know it, I think by the end of that live stream, if not shortly thereafter, we had broken the 500 mark. We're now at like 520. So that is awesome, and I appreciate it. And it's super rewarding to, you know, to see that people are digging it, hopefully. At least a few of you guys. Um, that's huge. And it definitely keeps me going. It's fun to know that, you know, the audience is growing and we're sharing people and hopefully inspiring folks to, you know, keep getting after it and keep working and making cool shit. Just starting to, or I should say, continuing to block out the facial forms. Simple stuff. I think this guy's might have a little bit of like a Sasquatchy kind of ape-like feel to a certain extent. Looks awfully happy so far. He's been coming together quickly too. Look, we've only been at it for 15 minutes. And we're making progress. Now, since this is going to be a much smaller component, I am going to reduce the poly count on this. It would be cool if you could set a preference for the amount of polygons that would come into the scene on certain primitives. I wonder if that exists. Cinema, get on that. Now, while we're talking about improvements Cinema could make, I wish that these two buttons were different colors. I'm always clicking on the wrong damn one. Same with all these MoGraph guys are these green colors. What they did is, the splines all used to be green colors too, but they went ahead and changed the color of that button, which I found super helpful. These are the problems people worry about, color the buttons. So let's see. I'm going to use a cloner, but just to set these up at first and get a bunch of them placed nicely, I think I want to add some variety in these teeth. Get some sharp ones, get some bigger and smaller ones, so let's funk with it. Get this set up evenly. And I just use this center point, right? Since we kept everything centered, we've got this nice center line. And since this cloner doesn't duplicate from the center line, it duplicates off from the left from this first object, it's a little bit hard to line things up sometimes. What I do is, it's not going to be perfect, it's going to be awfully close. And for our purposes today, it's going to be close enough, so I'll just use this center line as a means to line that boy up. There we go. Another reason I think I want to expand these is they're just set a little bit too far back. So I'm going to make a copy. The top. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Should I do 2 rows of teeth? And so last week the chat was absolutely blown up, and it's been kind of quiet this week. Oh well. Oh well, Last week was the first week where we had a lot of participation in the Twitch chat. That's normally fairly quiet in there. And not every week's going to be the same as the last, and that is just fine. But it's interesting to see how things grow and change over the weeks. You know what I'm going to do? I think I made these teeth too tall, so I'm going to undo back to this original cloner state. Isolate those guys. Adjust that so I don't have to do it individually to each one. That, of course, is the benefit to a cloner. That's a better tooth. Yeah, I can drop it down a little. Bring it forward a little bit. There we go. All right. Copy you, turn you off. All right. So a lot of times what I would have done is just used the cloner object set to object mode, and I would have created a spline that would have wrapped in the shape of these teeth, or in the shape of this line here, the mouth. But I'm going to do it by hand today. Kind of don't mind. And since I'm ultimately going to tweak and alter these teeth shapes to be different from each other, for you to be okay to do that. So, shrink these guys down 80%. I'm going to hold Shift to make quantifiable leaps down, which is going to make it easier for me to keep track of the change to each side and make it consistent for each side. So these guys I'm also going to make larger. Call it the patented trick and make these teeth sharp, because that's tight. Boop. And I wonder, should I just copy this up? Might be a bit much, actually, but we shall see. It was fun. Nice. Hey, Mod. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate the kind words. We need some ears for sure. I'm thinking, what kind of ear? Should it be like kind of a floppy ear? We can start with one of these. Let's see how this goes. It's going to be sort of a more humanoid kind of ear. Just use a torus. Hmm. See, guys, I'm breaking my own rules. This is the kind of stuff you want to work out in a sketchbook, typically, before you start right in on the 3D modeling. I had a fairly good idea of what I wanted to make this week, so I skipped the sketching step, and now I'm suffering the indecision that comes along with that. It's not always the best way to work. All right, I'm going to try and just smush one of these spheres into the shape that I need. Let's try this. Get some Mickey Mouse ears, huh? All right. As you can see, the soft selection tool is usually like one of my favorites. Useful stuff, especially for organic kind of modeling like I typically do. Hmm. It kind of like pig ears. Hmm. I'm making a copy of this capsule. I'm going to make some changes to it. It might help. We shall see. Might want to take it back. We want to sort of exaggerate that big chin and lower jaw, and a cool way to do that is by, making other things smaller. If you want to exaggerate something, it only works in relationship to other things, right? So you want to exaggerate those other things, and maybe making these ears a little bit smaller is going to help too. Yeah, I'm digging that. Or a little bit more anyway than I did the last one. All right, let's. I'm also going to make another copy of this bool, but for totally different different reasons. So let's check this out. So expand current state to object. Cool. This outline selection is pretty awesome because then I can just grab that, and then what I'm going to do. So don't need the backside. Just going to remove that selection. Then this handy dandy feature, bam. Actually, I think you might have to go up into the mesh menu, spline. Do you have to be in point mode? Why doesn't this let me do this? Oops. Edge to spline. It's under commands, not spline. That's why. There we go. Bam. So now I've got a spline that matches the shape of the mouth. I'm going to throw those in a sweep and make some lips. I'm going to alter that just a little bit to get it above, just sort of outside the bounds of the mouth. So it won't be covering too much of that up, and just scoot it back just a little bit. That's looking better. Not even close, my friend. Where are you? Ah, yes. Ruru. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it, Mr. Ruru. No parlay, but thank you for the comment. All right, so I'm actually going to grab the lighting from last week's scene. Just use that again. See what we get out of that. It's not going to look like much. Until we start rendering, obviously. Let's give that a shot. See what we're looking at. Pretty fun, actually. I think we're dealing with a nose that needs to push back into the head a little further. That is easily doable. We're near as nice from that side, huh? It's all about how the lighting is set up. So we can add some additional sort of bulk to the neck area. I'm not sure if this is going to work. So a little experimenting on the fly. Also really liked some of the sort of fur-like effects we were able to achieve last week. So I'm gonna try some of that again too. Let me zero this guy out and throw him in a cloner. Cloner, object. Heh. It's set up like almost perfectly right out of the gate, which is awesome. Just gotta flip that. Oop. Get that going the other way. There we go. If we set the angle just right, they sort of stack and overlap, which is what we want them to do. I don't want to like intersect. Like overlapping is good in a way, but I don't want them to sort of intersect. So I'm reducing the poly count because this is set to vertex mode. I believe it's set to vertex mode. Yeah, and then it's just gonna, so vertex mode means that basically it's just gonna place whatever object is inside the cloner at each one of these vertices, which is good. You know what we're actually starting to get little gaps here. So I'm going to cheat it just a little bit, and the ones towards the top are going to intersect a little bit more than the ones towards the bottom. That should be all right. That should work. If I wanted to get really perfect about it, I could sort of I could set up some sort of effector, maybe a step effector that would grow the bottom set and have a fall off that would make the ones towards the top of the neck a little bit smaller so that this tiling would line up perfectly, but meh. Save that for another week, yeah? And, you know, maybe we should sort of give this dude like a beard kind of a thing. Freud's back. Hey, Chris. No need for dentist. That's true. And Cern's here. What's up? Guys, I got to say, thanks for stopping by. It pleases me to no end to know that there are repeat viewers. I hope you guys are staying inspired and making some cool stuff of your own. Thank you for coming by. All right. So let's try this same approach. So we'll see fur. We're going to try and make more of that, but kind of make a beard, right? So I'm going to take a selection from this capsule and use that. And I think I'm not going to use that bottom one, because that is going to be too dense a mesh, I believe. So copy that, delete the bottom, delete all the extra points, because I think it'll count those and put cloners on those potentially, depending on the way we've got that set up. Of course, we also want to eliminate this mouth component. I don't want the beard in his mouth. That would be unseemly. All right, so I'm just going to copy this cloner. Bam. Cool. Good start. And see what happens was, oops, I left all the points inside the mouth. So let's see if that makes it behave a little better. It does. Unfortunately, the beard's starting to look an awful lot like those teeth, which isn't great necessarily. We need to remove another row of these. Move them up. That's what we need to do, is move them up. And since the vertices are where those objects will be placed, we can alter the position of the vertices to alter the position of the placement of the rest of those objects, if that makes sense, right? And actually, I'm liking the way that that's given us a little bit of rotation there. That's feeling like a nice beard, y'all. Recognize. Now I think I need to do, what's going to help a lot, is take a white material, put that on the teeth, wherever those are. Bam. And then, you know, having this beard and all that detail and complication in there, I think what we need to do then is make these lips a little bigger and more prominent, and I'm probably going to wind up pulling them out a little bit more. Maybe dropping them a hair. Just working it, just getting the position right on this stuff. Cool. Feeling it. Oops. See, the tops of these things are sort of sticking out, so I'm just going to grab the top of that beard object, shrink that down a little bit. I use soft selection because that wasn't just what I wanted. Oop, and that's way too much, of course. There we go. Oh, look at this guy. Now I can definitely say we probably won't need these anymore. It's a silly way to describe it too. I just said we definitely probably won't need these. Get it together. Double ears? Maybe. Hey, stop texting. Whoa. Yeah, it is kind of like a Yeti, Sasquatch, gorilla kind of bearded thing. Let's knock out a quick rendering. And I haven't been hyping it like I was last week, but just like we did last week, I'm not sure if you guys tuned in, but we all chipped in and came up with ideas for a name. I want to do that again. I want everyone in the chat to help name this critter. We're gonna put a little bronze plaque underneath here, give him a name. So if you want to start throwing out ideas, that would be awesome. I'll choose one eventually to add to the model, which would be very cool. All right, so let's do a quick test rendering. I think we want to get some more sort of gray tones in here. Maybe the beard is a different color. Phil Sest, hello. Thanks for the kind words. And thanks for stopping by. I don't want to select the same exact camera angle as last week, so I'll come to the other side. Get a little variety going in this series. Throw the camera in. Lock it up. All right. I also am pretty sure that we're going to have some not so hot shadows on this side, so let's grab one of these lights so we bring it over to the other side. Man, that is weird. Look where it's putting my material. It's not even close, my friend. Not even close. Maybe if I have this selected. Maybe things just act kind of screwy when they're inside of symmetries. That's so weird. Not the ear. There we go. Chillum radicus. That's cool. Hi, Danny Burton. The evil Dr. Cucumber is a good name, too. It is. These are good. Keep the suggestions coming. These are really funny. I like this Chilomus radicus because it has that Latin scientific taxidermied kind of feel, which I think is appropriate for, like a mounted head, right? Let's also make these eyes a bit more eye-like. Cool. So, hmm, this color might be a bit much, but we'll give it a shot. Give it a shot. And then it's acting weird again. Where to put my materials. Ooh, should I leave the eyes dark? Decisions. Let's see. Try it both ways. That's the beauty of digital art. We could try it both ways. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Enjoy your meeting. Nobody in the Twitch chat this week. Twitch. Just chat to myself in there. All right, so that adds a lot of character, obviously, having the eyes and pupils and retinas and all in there. While that's rendering, I'm going to adjust this beard just a hair. I guess pun intended. Things are looking a little pinched and uneven around the mouth, and that sort of smoothed them out a bit, which is good. Hmm. White or dark? White or dark? I don't know. Total Ice Walker eyes. Winter is coming, y'all. Maybe I should name this guy Jon Snow. The Ice Walkers have the dark whites to their eyes, right? Because if that's the case, I may want to have a little bit of a cheerier, happier eye. All right, so I think I want to add just a little bit more fur, kind of around the eyes, like maybe some sort of eyebrow kind of dealies. So the best move there might be to use the symmetry. Let's try this. With this, of course, be careful to remove all the additional points. You can go up here and use the optimize tool, which will remove all the extra points, but I usually don't feel like going up there. I just do an inverse selection. Crazy like that. All right, so let's try this for cloner. That's pretty good, actually. But we want to alter the angle. Not bad. Hmm. And see, what I might have normally done was just select both sides of this, but since I want the direction of the fur to be mirrored, I think it's better to just put it right in this symmetry tool, symmetry objects. So I'm also going to borrow this little plaque from last week, which is super simple. I don't think I need to explain it. It's just a cube and a motext object. That is just a placeholder name. It is going to be up to you guys in the chat to name this creature. Just going to name some of this stuff for good measure. I'm also noticing that this is, anytime you're looking at the mesh, unless you're going to do an extreme close-up on your final rendering, if you're looking at the mesh and it's all solid with vertices, it's like totally black, you've got way too much geometry in there. So I'm just going to turn the angle up on some of this stuff. And I think it's still going to look fine in the rendering. You probably won't even be able to tell the difference, but it's going to save us a little bit of calculations. Oops, that's not what I want. Oops, that's not what I want either. There we go. Let's make those a little bit bigger. You think more toothiness? Perhaps. Let's give it a try. In fact, yeah, I kind of like that. You know, these are other things I should probably have right in that symmetry object, but these teeth like a little bit of a sort of a curve. Let's see what that does. Probably should have made backups of those. Oops. That might be fun. A little bit of extra character, a little something out of the ordinary. What I'm not loving, we're getting some intersection between that beard and the nose. So I think I'm just going to bring this down and out again. Cover some of that stuff up. Kind of cheating. I could also go in and delete some of the vertices if I didn't want to adjust the nose. I think a nice big schnoz is going to work for this character. And I kind of like those teeth, actually. I might downplay some of the other teeth since those ones are so cool. But I like his big lower jaw and a bit of an underbite. Fun times. It's always fun to go back through your test renderings and see sort of where you started and where you've been heading. Come a long way. Come a long way. Many of you may know this, but what you can do is you can take different colored, or actually just straight up different objects. Let me show you an example. Excuse me, I got the hiccups there for a sec. You can put more than one type of object in a cloner, and it will just alternate those objects, right? So what I do sometimes if I want to get some of these striping or layering effects, you can just put multiple of the same objects into the same cloner with different materials on them, and get this nice striping effect, which I think works really well in a lot of cases. This might be a bit too much, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Yeah, that's actually sort of adding some mass to the face, which I like. And it kind of makes it feel a little bit more masculine somehow. What I think I can do is come in here, continue that stripe game. We all love that stripe game. Yeah. You got to find, in my opinion anyway, you got to find the right balance between enough details and enough simplicity where they sort of work hand in hand and you get enough to look at in the image that keeps it interesting while still being to the point enough where you can quickly digest the entirety of the piece. So that's what I think makes an image work really well frequently is you look at it and all like if immediately there's enough going on there and that there's enough at the same time, there's enough going on there and there's enough simplicity that you sort of get the image as a whole immediately. And I guess it's the simplicity and the clarity of thought and certainly the composition that's going to grab your eye right from the get-go and say, oh, that's a cool image. And then hopefully there's also enough sort of detail and smaller bits to discover that while you're looking at the piece after your initial great impression, you look a little bit closer and say, oh, look at that little thing. Oh, that's really cool. And it gives you a little bit more to sort of search out and find in the piece. So, Danny Burton, that's kind of a cool suggestion, Dan. You want to give that a shot? Let's see here. And that's going to be really easy because I don't have these teeth in a cloner anymore. Let's try a broken tooth. I wonder, should it be one of these tusks? No, it shouldn't be one of these tusks. Let's make it one of these front teeth. So, what you really do is isolate the things. It's a little bit easier to see. Oop, oop. You know, digital art is a lot about selections, especially in 3D software. Learning how to make proper selections and selecting the items that you need is really going to take you a long way. It's half the process at times. All right, so what are we doing here? So let's go. Polygon pen, that's what we want. Bang. Maybe with this one I can just close the polygon hole command. Look at that. You think broken tooth? Let's see what it looks like. Can't believe I didn't add ambient occlusion yet. I think this is going to look a lot nicer when I do that. And actually, surprisingly, the shadows look pretty decent for not having AO in there. I think we're just going to look a whole lot better now. Get some more realistic shadowing, some contact shadows. Yeah, a little bit more contrast overall in the image because of the darkness that we get. Oops. All right. Let's try it again with GI and the physical renderer. We're just cranking these settings. Wonder if we should add a little bit of glossiness to that eye. I think last week's did have a sort of a glossy eye. Did it? Well, it's got glossy horns. Yeah, there's a little bit of specularity in there, but I may skip it. How much more light we get bouncing around the scene when we turn GI on. So we got no ambient. This is a great example to sort of look at what these settings are going to buy us and if they're worth the additional time, right? So here's no ambient occlusion, no AO, and no physical renderer. Here's just AO. Also has an adjusted light, which is why you're seeing the lighting move in the background. And then this is physical renderer, AO, and global illumination. I'm going to try one that is just physical renderer and AO, no GI. See what we get. It's going to be a little bit faster. GI, of course, is very expensive. Now I'm liking the GI. I'm going to turn that back on. And it wasn't costing us too much time. You know, still under a minute is solid. And this one's really coming together quickly this week. KNYJ. Where do I work? Do you mean physically, like where in the world do I work, or at which company? Because, you know, why don't I answer both of those questions, actually? So I'm located geographically in San Francisco, and I am a freelancer. I was with a large event agency for a number of years, but about 6 months ago, I split and I broke out on my own and have been freelance 3D illustrator, designer, animator since. And it's been super fun. It's been, well, fun's one way to put it. It's had its ups and downs, certainly. I've had a few really slow months, which were a little bit sort of nerve-wracking and made me slightly worried for a moment there. Was able to land some really great contracts last month, so be able to pay rent and all that good stuff. I'm I'm also extremely lucky because my wife is also still a full-time designer at an agency, so we're able to use, she's got a steady paycheck coming in, and we're able to use her health insurance, which just helps out a ton. I also made sure before I quit my job to save up like almost a year's worth of rent, so I had funds set aside for my startup expenses, for my computer, for all that stuff, and also, some funds to get me through some dry spells because I assumed there would be some. I've heard with a lot of businesses it takes, almost 2 years in some cases to really build up your book of clients and get your business going enough to, be sustainable and to continue growing. So, at only the 6 month mark, I'm starting to feel a little bit more traction, a little bit more going on. I've also been spending a lot of time sort of networking, and that's a bit tough for me. I'm not a very salesy kind of dude. I like to let the work speak for itself. But I've been making a real effort to get out there and meet more people, especially folks in the industry. San Francisco is a great place for creatives, especially those interested in 3D art and technology and VR. So a lot of opportunity, and I'm just trying to exploit sort of the geographic happenstance I happen to be in. So yeah, company. It's called Diligence Studio is the technical name for my company. And the name Diligence really came from a reminder to stay after it. Yeah. So, I started Diligence Studio while I was still at the old company. I was freelancing a little bit on the side. I had, a strong social media presence that I was using to really get my work out there and to market myself, to build a following that would help as I transitioned into a freelance creative. So you got to start early and you got to stay after it. And I assumed that it would be a long, slow hustle to get the business to where I wanted it to be. So I thought Diligence would be a great name as sort of a reminder of that outlook. That's how I landed on the name. Also, if you're going to go freelance, try and set it up properly. Not that I'm any expert. I'm definitely not a finance guy. But create a separate bank account, follow the laws and the regulations in your area, in your city, wherever you happen to find yourself. Set aside plenty of your income for taxes because, probably, and this of course depends on where you live, but, at least a third of that is going to the government. So, in a lot of parts of the world, even more. So save up and try and do it right, try and do it right. And a lot of it, I think, is going to be about holding on until you get your break, till you get the right opportunity. It's about not closing up shop. So that's another good reason for the name Diligence. You got to stay after it. You got to stay, humble and focused until you sort of get those opportunities that you need. Ah, yes. Europe, unlike the United States, has more universal healthcare, so that's cool. Well, KNYJ, my training is in graphic design and illustration. I did not go to school for 3D modeling. I'm all self-taught. Um, that probably explains why some of my stuff's a bit janky at times, but yeah, I just had to teach myself, and I had really made an effort in learning new tools and continuing to grow. God, someone's beeping out there. Shut up, everyone. Um, yeah, continue growing the skill set and sharpening the tools and getting better at what I was doing, right? And, you know, Creative Suite, the Adobe products, the more typical day-to-day stuff for graphic designers and illustrators is obviously super, super powerful, but I saw this whole new world of really amazing 3D stuff happening. And a lot of it related to the graphic design work that I was doing. And I found that, Cinema 4D was relatively easy to learn as far as 3D programs go. Don't get me wrong, it's still super complicated. There's still a ton to learn. But as far as other 3D programs go, it's not that bad. And it just became like a super inspiring and challenging way to continue sort of growing the skill set. So it's worked out really well in that regard. And I've been using it for you know, 6 or 7 years, and I'm still discovering new little, you know, features and tricks and workflows. So stay after it. It's going to take a while, but it is fun. Ah, Danny's a freelance 3D generalist waiting for work. C40 is great if you come from Adobe stuff. Yeah, that was a short meeting. Welcome back, man. Glad to have you back. So, Danny, being a 3D generalist, what sort of stuff do you typically work on? Any kind of stuff you can get your hands on, perhaps? Also, guys, we need to come up with a name. We've had 2 suggestions so far. We've got Chilomus radicus and the evil Dr. Cucumber, both of which are really fun. Um, so let me know what you think this guy should be called. I'll go ahead and slug that into the plaque name. And you know, we may we may we may need to run a little shorter this week. I'm starting to feel pretty good about where this piece is landing. And you know, typically we run about 2 hours for the stream, about an hour and 20 minutes in now, and I just don't see it taking another 40 minutes to finish up this piece. So short and sweet is okay at times. So what I'm going to do is let's see here. What size did I output it last? 1800. I'll match that. Call it 1800. 1800. The one last thing I think I'm going to do is add a little bit of noise because I like doing that, and we did it last week, and I want these to sort of feel like a set that works together. So let's do that. Let's see what that gets us. Jon Snow. Animation and low poly style. Yeah, that's cool. There's plenty of market out there, but even though there's plenty of a market out there to sell that kind of stuff or get that kind of work, it's also a very crowded market. There's a lot of people doing that style. So, Danny, maybe it would make sense as you're waiting for work to come in to continue pushing your style and coming up with something unique, only you know achievable by you, and that scarcity is going to make your particular brand of low poly animation work more in demand. So, there you have it. So I have sold some stuff on Society 6. I do have a Society 6 shop. It's under the name Diligence, like most of my other stuff. Um, you know, to be honest, I never really got a lot of customers. I think I sold like 1 or 2 pieces on Society 6, and it was kind of a hassle to upload and keep my shop updated. And the other thing is, you know, for all the hassle that it was to keep my shop, you know, up to date, you sell $100 print and you're only making like 3 or 5 or 8 bucks from it. So I found it was just not a great use of my time, to be honest. If there is though a piece that you see of mine that you really die and have, I can upload that one in particular and make it available to you. So holler. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the GI and the physical render is making it feel a lot better. You know, I couldn't believe I had gone so far along with my test renderings without throwing AO and GI on. I almost always do that. And yeah, it does really help the look of the piece. Danny suggested that chipped tooth, which is fun. I'm digging that. Nice suggestion. That little bit of noise really helped. Yeah. So I think what I'll do is save this out, do some retouching in Photoshop, call it a session. Yeah. Save. Oops. All right. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Sometimes it's really helpful to just get into Photoshop and start altering the color a little bit, and you can frequently take it a long way. Hmm. And then because of these sliders, you second guess all of your decision making when you realize that something would look cool in a way that you didn't design it initially. So that's always a little bit disheartening. Oops. Cool. Yeah, in print might be better. There are other more exclusive online print selling marketplaces that I think share more of the royalties with the artist. But I think their exclusivity means that only like super popular artists can get in there. I'm not sure how popular Eric Johansson is, or if in print works that way, but it's possible. All right, y'all. Oh my gosh, you know what I realized? I'm gonna have to re-render this. Dang it! I didn't update the name, y'all. All right. Since we only got 3 suggestions, and since I took Danny's suggestion for a chipped tooth, I'm going to go with Chris's suggestion. Where did you put that? Where is it? Where is it? Chilomus radicus. I like that. It sounds like an official scientific name, right? So here we go. Back into the model. Whoops. I'm glad I noticed that before I finished and uploaded. It would have been disappointing to not have an updated name. Hmm. What? What the heck? That's weird. I didn't even know that you could have different size text in the same object. What is going on? Have you guys ever seen anything like this before? Super, super weird. All right, so I'm going to copy this and just throw in a whole new mode text because this is just mayhem. Let's see if we go all the way back. Oops. Cinema, what are you doing? Let's see if it renders that way as well. I imagine it will. I've never seen anything like that before. Have you guys ever seen anything like that before? What the hell? That is weird. Hmm. Well, let's try this. I'm going to throw a whole new motext in there. Well, let's try this first, actually. If we go to taxidermy, this guy, we go to the motext. We type in Chilimus radicus. What in the strange hell? This is so weird. Just rendering them all at different sizes. All right. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to save and quit and reopen quickly. It's always worth a shot, right? Yeah, you could change the font, but I like that font. I don't want to change that font. Ah, it's still like that. You jerkus. Jerkus. Well, let's see. That's all consistently sized. I'm going to just take this. Huh. Strange. Well, let's see what happens when we change the font. It's my favorite font ever. Nope, still doing it. Unbelievable. Let's try this. Oops. Okay. But I don't, yeah, the small caps, all caps aren't, that's not even an option in Cinema, is it? Yeah, I don't think that's an option, to be honest. Well, let's try this. And now I'm forgetting the name. What the hell is that name again? Chilimus radicus. Okay, so the splines are behaving properly. That is a good sign. I'm just going to probably wind up extruding these instead of using the motext, which is awfully inconvenient. Come on, Cinema. Come on, Maxon. Get it together. All right, so I like it in all caps, so let's try that. Okay, that's a good sign. So far, so good. Watch it just totally break when I switch the font back. In. Yay! Ah, what a relief. Sweet, sweet relief. All right. Extrude it. Scale it. Look at that. It fits really nicely on last week's panel. Well played. Let's get this inside of the placket name. There we go. All right. Thank goodness. Well, yeah, nailed it, right? There's always one. There's always more than one way to skin a cat or to label a yeti. Yeah, weirdness. What an awesome way to end the stream too. Oh, I'm an expert. Look, oh, haha, I made a cool animal. And then what the fuck? Anyways, we worked through it. You usually can. Cool. And what's great is I've got this open and all of my adjustments were made via adjustment layers. So I'm going to be able to just drag and drop the new rendering right in here. Yeah, this was a fun one. I may even, depending on how the week goes, I may do another animal head next week. And then maybe take the three, because I think odd numbers always work well for sets. So take a set of three, maybe put them all on the same wall and render them together. Maybe even make a little room with the heads sort of lining the walls. Could be fun. Could be fun. All right. Well, now we're closer to the 2 hour mark, aren't we? Place. Cool, cool. Chilmus radicus. Duplicate. All right. So what do you guys think? That's a little bit weird how these tips got dark. I'm going to live with that. I'm going to live with that. I really like the way the beard came out. The teeth are fun. The wood grain looks kind of nice, although we're having a bit of weirdness here along this bevel. I'm going to live with that too. So everyone, the routine repeat visitors, thanks so much. This show wouldn't be shit without you guys. I really appreciate it. It's been fun watching the community grow. It's getting a little bit bigger each week. Like I mentioned, we crossed that 500 subscriber threshold last week, which feels great and is really huge. We're almost about to break 20,000 views in total for the channel, which is also really awesome. So thank you. That's all due to the support of everyone who tunes into this stream. So can't thank you enough for that. Like I mentioned, we'll have some announcements soon. I got that short film coming out, and there's a cool app that I've been working on that'll have some of my environments and character designs into. So super excited to reveal more about that in the coming weeks. Check out Vicarious VR in the meantime. And like I always say, it's super fun sharing with you guys. I love hearing about what you're working on and trying to answer some questions. And since this is a unrehearsed, unedited stream, we're overcoming obstacles as they pop up, like that weird mo-text issue that we found a workaround for. So if you like what you see, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share it with a pal. Hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at DLGNCE. That's Diligent Studio for you guys. And this is Stuart saying goodbye. Thank you. We'll see you next week.